The Indy Lights Championship, presented by Cooper Tires, returns for its third and final appearance of the season on an oval, this time at the historic Milwaukee Mile. A staple on the open-wheel racing calendar since Wilbur Shaw's 1933 win in the first Champ Car race at the Wisconsin State Fair Park Speedway, today the famed mile hosts the Indy Lights Series for a 26th time. Gabby Chavez remains atop the point standings, but double victory for Jack Harvey in Mid-Ohio 2 weeks ago shot the Englishman to second in the championship. With just 3 races remaining, time is growing short. Who will take hold of the championship lead for good and be crowned 2014 Indy Lights champion? The Indy Lights Series, presented by Cooper Tires from the Milwaukee Mile, is next. Been racing cars here since 1903. This track is even older than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it has always been a favorite for talented drivers. Hello and welcome to Wisconsin State Fair Park and the Milwaukee Mile for Indy Lights, presented by Cooper Tires. I'm Kevin Lee, along with former Indy Lights driver Anders Krohn. Anders, this is it. The final 3 races of the season over the next 2 weekends. Gabby Chavez has had a hold on the championship for a little while. He can't clinch today, but he can take a big step towards it.
And you can just tell that the pressure has been mounting for these guys. They've been pushing so hard all year long. Gabby Chavez can make a big gap in the championship, but he can also lose point here today.
There are 2 others that are very much lurking. Zach Veach has been strong all weekend, and as mentioned, Jack Harvey is coming off a doubleheader sweep, so this one is far from done.
And you know, it's funny. We almost wrote Jack Harvey off at the halfway point of the season, but he has come back so strong with double wins at Mid-Ohio. And the question is, can he hang on here in Milwaukee?
Championships are always big, but maybe in this series a little bit bigger, because if you win this title, you're guaranteed to fulfill a dream.
You really are, and $750,000 goes to you if you're able to win the championship, which will be put towards the Indianapolis 500 and other races on the IndyCar calendar.
Big day here today. Let's hear from the pole sitter now, down on pit road with Jake Query.
Zach Veach a year ago started second and finished third at Milwaukee. You did have the fastest race lap in that contest. Obviously, this is a track you like. Congratulations on the pole. What's it going to take to keep that car up front?
I mean, I think the big thing is tire conservation. You know, last year I think we got the lead. We led 56 laps and just pushed it a little too hard. We weren't there at the end. So we're definitely taking what we learned last year, putting it to power here. I think we can go for a win and close up the championship gap.
That championship gap you speak of, how do you block that out in terms of not constantly wondering where the points are going to fall? You got a critical one with the pole.
Yeah, well, the wolf that's climbing up the side of the mountain is always hungrier than the one on the top. So right now we're just worried about wins. We want wins. We're not thinking about the points. And, you know, we're just going to be aggressive and take what it needs.
All right, best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Zach Veach will start on pole here at the Milwaukee Mile.
And when you're trying to make up ground in the championship, every point matters, and that's 1 bonus point for Zach Veach, and he is in third. He led the championship early in the season, so he's certainly still a contender. And look at Jack Harvey. As Anders mentioned, we didn't think he had much of a chance, but certainly has a great chance now. But Chavez is still the leader. Others down below may not be able to win the championship, but they can still get some major things done, make people notice by winning one of these final 3 races. Well, let's now hear from the young man who dominated 2 weeks ago in Mid-Ohio with Jake.
The last outing for the Indy Lights was a dream weekend for Jack Harvey. Just about everything went right for you, young man, and you told me that you don't worry about points, you just want to go out and win every race. Take me through that weekend in Mid-Ohio.
We knew it was an important weekend. I mean, Gabby was starting to build up quite a big gap over us, so we knew we had to start drawing him in, and we were quick in the pre-season testing there, so you know we were pretty confident moving into that weekend that we could achieve a good result. And like you said, it was a dream weekend. We had both pole positions, both fastest laps, and both wins, and we led every lap. So I mean, you can't grumble at that.
We take a look at it here. It seemed as though everything kind of came together for you in that weekend, just your comfort in these cars.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we were fast before, so we had high expectations going there. The car was absolutely fantastic, so, I just need to say thank you to Sam and everybody at Smith-Peterson Motorsport, the Racing Steps Foundation, two of my primary sponsors, and, without all these guys, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to win. This weekend's been a bit more tough, but, we're working hard to try and get back to the front and, feeling more confident for the race than we did yesterday.
Just the third oval start for Jack Harvey, a fifth, a third. Will he have enough to continue the theme and improve by 2 and finish first? Kevin?
And that was just a few moments ago. Drivers are now strapped in as we get set for the command. Jack Harvey, we expected big things out of him, and he's now getting there.
He really has, and the impressive thing about him is that he's now on a roll. He's won 2 races back-to-back, and I'm wondering if maybe this can be the beginning of his dominance.
There's Jack Harvey strapped in, ready to go in just a moment. A great opportunity, a very challenging racetrack. This is what somewhat separates the men from the boys.
This really is. These guys need to know how to do it all. Super speedways, road courses, street circuits, and short ovals.
Let's head down now, pit side, as we get set to get things started.
Drivers, start your engines.
On board first with Matthew Brabham, and there is Jack Harvey. He's got a little more work to do today, starting from the 5th position. Back to the United Fiber and Data car with Matthew Brabham. He is looking straight ahead at his teammate, Zach Veach. Brabham will start from the 3rd position. The beginning of this race is going to be extremely critical, very challenging to pass, so we'll get it going in just a moment. Stay with us. Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires from the Milwaukee Mile on NBCSN. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile as we get set to go today for the Milwaukee Mile 100 from West Allis, Wisconsin, the Wisconsin State Fair Park, and this is how they will line up today in Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. Zach Veach wins the pole. He's chasing Gabby Chavez. He's the points leader, and he's on the outside of row number 1. That's Matthew Brabham and Luis Rizia, who have both won races this season, along with those starting on the front row. And we'll go green the next time by is Jack Harvey and Scott Anderson in row number 3, and the final row today will consist of Juan Pablo Garcia and Juan Piedrahita. It's time now for Anders Insider and the Keys.
Well, the biggest thing here is this is the only short oval on the calendar, only 1 mile oval track. Secondly, Luis Rizia, this is their first time at this track, and they need to figure it out. Finally, this could be the return of Zach Veach. He's fallen a little bit back in the championship, but this is his chance to rebound.
Cannot wait to see how this one gets started. On the inside of the 26, that's Veach. The more red car on the outside is Gabby Chavez. We are green at the Milwaukee Mile. Zach Veach gets the early jump. Rizia tries to go from the outside. Brabham has a look at the inside. Side by side for second. Brabham, Chavez, as they head down the backstretch, chasing Zach Veach.
That was not a good jump for Gabby Chavez there. We know he was going to try and be aggressive here early on to try and get a jump on Zach Veach, but he is now on the outside of Matthew Brabham, and it looks like Brabham's going to have the early advantage there. So not a great start for Chavez and his hopes of extending his championship lead right now.
And Brabham doing everything he can for his teammate right now, and he does now squeeze ahead, but just racing with Chavez allows Veach to pull ahead a little bit.
Veach has now got a commanding lead, and let's see if he can capitalize on exactly what Jake and him were talking about earlier. Last year he led about 50 laps in this race, but then started falling back because he overworked his tires. So this race for him is going to be one of saving tires and being smart.
Talk about how do you do that? How do you save tires? Everyone speaks to how critical that is, but it's easier said than done.
It really is easier said than done, and it's a very, very fine balance. And basically what you do when you save tires is you'll charge into the corners a little bit less hard, a little less aggressively. You'll turn a little less aggressively, try and run a slightly more open line. But it's a very fine line, because if you start pushing too little, you'll then start losing focus and just start focusing on saving your tires. So it really is a huge skill set, and one that they're going to have to learn before they move up to the Verizon IndyCar Series.
We're also keeping a close eye on Jack Harvey, who is second in the championship. He's already dropped a spot, running in 6th. Let's watch on board earlier.
Oh, yeah, and he's all the way down on the low side there. And where you see that black patch typically makes the car very, very loose. So he's just experimenting with his line right now. But his car right now too loose to be on the bottom of the racetrack. So he's going to have to alter his line.
And the noise we hear, that's the limiter that we're hearing.
That is the rev limiter, which is limited with these engines at 8,600 RPM, basically telling the driver that, okay, you need to upshift at this point. The engine isn't going to accelerate any further. And around a track like this, we typically see a lot of limiter action. And the reason for that is you want the engine as high in the RPM as possible going through the corners to pull out of that corner as quickly as possible. Now, towards the end of the straightaway, they're going to hit that limiter, and it's going to stop the car from accelerating. But because they've been so high in the RPM in the middle of the corner, they would have gained more across the middle of the corner than what they're losing down the straightaway. So these guys are always fine-tuning with the limiter, trying to figure out exactly how hard they need to be bouncing off it.
That's right, on board with Matthew Brabham, and also listen.
Just catching a little bit of limiter action there as he goes into turn one there. Now in turn two, very tough corner here, very tough as he unwinds his hands now onto the back straight.
Now, Brabham has experience here. It's his first year in Indy Lights, but he dominated last year, winning in Pro Mazda. He said it might even work against you. He told me that you run an entirely different line. The cars are so different, so you somewhat have to unlearn what you learned.
And riding on board here with Matthew Brabham, we can see he's actually got quite a bit of understeer in the car right now. But I think that's going to serve him very well towards the end of this race, because typically with the Cooper tires, what happens is the rear tires tend to give up before the front tires do. So if he's got a little bit of push now, he might be able to dial that out, but towards the end of the race become even stronger.
Zach Veach has been good here almost all weekend. They tested significantly on Friday, and his car was quick. He said it was a dream to drive. Not quite as good yesterday, and that had him a little bit concerned. But he said they threw a lot at it in qualifying, knowing how important it was to start up front. He said it stuck. It was a scary ride. He's not even sure he breathed at all during those 2 laps.
Qualifying on an oval is always going to be exciting, and especially a 1 mile oval like the Milwaukee Mile, where it's just hold your breath and hang on for dear life the entire way around. And going back to Zach Veach on this track, he's always been strong here. As far back as 2011, he finished second in USF 2000 here from starting on pole. So he's got a lot of experience at this track, and obviously he's really, really figuring it out here.
Veach has an already comfortable lead here. 23 back in the championship coming in. He's third in points. He's already won 2 times this season. There's a look at Scott Anderson, who started in the 6th position and has moved up a spot into 5th.
And he's doing a fine job here, actually putting a bit of pressure onto Luis Garcia. And look at this. This is having big championship implications. If Veach can win here today, they'll be so close going into Sonoma.
Let's check in on pit road with Jake Query.
You know, as you watch here, guys, you can see that both teams, for Zach Veach and Matt Brabham, obviously teammates, but working together and in constant communication. Zach Veach had radioed in and said, I'm worried about the pace Brabham's running right now, because it appears as though he's running at a higher pace than I am. And he was told, don't worry about that. The key right now is to make sure, obviously, that you're running a pace ahead of where Gabby Chavez is, because as we talked about, those points are oh so critical. Veach then settled down just a little bit. Anders, you touched on this, the fact that he wants to make sure that those tires are not going off early and that he is maintaining that pace that's going to allow him for the entire course of the race. His last communication, they told him, you're cruising right now. He said everything feels good in that car. They are very conscientious between Matt Brabham and Zach Veach of where exactly Gabby Chavez in terms of closing in on that number 83. As you watch Zach Veach with that lead right now, and that is a 1-2 effort, goes without saying, in making sure that they keep Gabby Chavez as far back as possible.
Zach Veach has been around the IndyCar community for a long time. We met him when he was not even yet 15 years old. He had to wait to have a birthday to get started that first season. And this year he's really taken off. This has to be so fulfilling for him that he's been a quality driver. He's been competitive, but this is the first time he's had a chance to compete for a championship at any of the levels, USF 2000 or Pro Mazda.
It really has been a huge breakthrough for him, and it just shows that never giving up is the way to go, and he's one of those guys that will never give up no matter what. And this year, I think everything has sort of come to him. His experience has helped him tremendously. The switch to Cooper tires, I think, has helped him in his driving style, because he is a very, very smooth driver, and I think that tire suits him just perfectly. So what we're seeing here is a driver coming into his own. He's maturing, and as we can see now, he's doing all the right things. He's running a somewhat conservative line here, a little bit on the high side, just in order to save those tires, and he's doing an outstanding job.
Beach just said on the radio, I'm coasting right now, and he should be. He is in command of this race, but stay with us because a lot can happen, especially when we consider tire wear. Still very early on in the going. 100 laps here, 100 miles. Cooper Lights and Cooper Tires and Indy Lights from the Milwaukee Mile. Working lap 22 of 100 at the Milwaukee Mile with Anders Krohn and Jake Query. I'm Kevin Lee. This is Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. Zach Veach, the pole sitter, got the jump in turn number 1 and has controlled since then and is up by over a second right now on his teammate Matthew Brabham, the championship leader. Gabby Chavez running in third on board with Brabham, chasing his teammates.
But have a look at this, a little further ahead. Zach Veach is about to catch his rival here, Juan Pablo Garcia, so this could be interesting. It is extremely tough to pass at this track, so even though he is quicker right now, this could slow him up, and this could give Matthew Brabham an opportunity here to pounce.
So lap traffic is going to come into play soon. As we watch Brabham, this will be the first time in 3 years he hasn't won a championship, so this is an entirely different scenario. He didn't expect to come out and dominate this year, and he has had some misfortune, some mechanicals, some bad luck along the way. But he said, all in all, it's been a very positive season. I feel like I have learned to make good progress this year.
And he's done a great job, but it's just such a different car. The Indy Lights car is a way faster, more heavy car. And as you can see right now, he's just battling a little bit of oversteer on the entries of the corners and then a little bit of understeer in the middle of the corner. And that's really a tough combination to have. But he's doing a great job right now, just working his tools. And we can see he's running a low line usually now. It looks like Juan Pablo Garcia is going to let him by there, which is very nice to see, and he's going to be able to resume his battle here to try and catch Zach Veach. But as you can see here, he's really having to be smooth with all his inputs, and this is typical of a car that's a little bit on edge, that's a little bit tail happy. So you can see here, just having a little correction right there, right in the middle of the corner, and turn 1-2, toughest corner on the track, incredibly hard.
That looked like a pretty big correction to me.
It is, and that's the beauty of these Cooper tires, is that the cars move around a little bit more than with the Firestone tire. So the driver element comes into play a lot more, especially on the ovals here. This really is tough for these drivers, and if they can handle this, they can sort of go on and handle pretty much anything.
Well, this onboard explains to us why the great drivers say we love this track because they think it brings out the talent. This isn't just being smooth and getting the steering wheel at a certain angle and just riding around. You are driving this thing every corner.
You are driving it so hard, and the thing about the Milwaukee Mile is that there's so many different concrete and asphalt types here that you really have to place your car well. And look at that, just look at how loose he gets there. And as you can see on the inside, all the way on the inside is a big black patch, and depending on how far over that you go, you alter the balance of your car. So very, very tough track to get right, and that's why everyone loves the Milwaukee Mile. It's an old track, and it has that old characteristic. It's not a new track that just is smooth as a billiard table.
And Matthew told me yesterday that our cars don't work very well on that black, darker asphalt, whereas the Pro Mazda last year worked fine on that, so he's had to adjust his line this season. All right, while we watch Zach Veach lead by over a second on his teammate Matthew Brabham, and here we see Chavez getting around lap traffic without much difficulties. He gets around Juan Pablo Garcia, so Chavez running in third position, about 5.5 seconds back. Down to pit road, let's hear about some of the other racing we've had here this weekend in the Mazda Road to Indy with Jake.
You know, it's interesting, Kevin. The Mazda Road to Indy is supposed to set the stage for a young driver's career, ultimately ending up, of course, in the Indy Lights or the Verizon IndyCar Series. Shelby Blackstock, you grew up building stages for country musicians in Nashville, Tennessee. Now you're setting your own stage. Third place here in the Pro Mazda event. Fourth in points. Take me through your season and where you feel you are now working your way up.
It's a little bit of, it's like a stepping ladder, really. The road courses and street courses we're very, very confident on, we're very strong on, and ovals have always been my weakness, and yesterday was actually a really awesome race for us. We started 8th, wasn't really where we wanted to start, but we're able to work our way through the field, and at the final restart, work our way up to 3rd, and overall we learned so much. And that's what the Mazda Road to Indy gives us, is an awesome stepping stool to learn how to race on ovals and how to race in these awesome tracks. So when we get to IndyCar, we can actually go out there and race.
As we watch Zach Veach and, of course, Matthew Brabham, two guys under the same Andretti Autosport umbrella as you, what challenges did this track present for you?
It's a little bit of everything. Tire wear is a big thing. You can go out there and thrash your tires for 30 laps, and then you're just screwed for the rest of the race. And it's a 100-lap race, so it's really about managing your tires, managing your pace to where you have something at the end to really make a charge.
Just 4 points out of third in the series. Best of luck to you as we close it out.
Thank you very much.
Shelby Blackstock in the Pro Mazdas. Kevin?
And yesterday evening, Spencer Pigot won that race, his 6th win of the season. The 20-year-old from Florida continues to lead the championship. Very entertaining race yesterday.
It was so entertaining, and they went 2 wide, 3 wide. There were cars brushing the wall and then continuing, and it was just what you want to see from the Mazda Road to Indy. Just a lot of learning and a lot of hard racing, and Shelby certainly did a great job yesterday. He struggled a little bit initially for pace, but towards the end of the race, he did a great job managing his way through some people that were scrambling, someone running side by side. I mean, he really made the most of his opportunities yesterday. And as we switch our gear now back to the racing here, we see Matthew Brabham has put a ton of pressure on Zach Veach, and Matthew's got to be smart here, because if he stays too far or too long behind Veach here, he's going to wear those tires out, and that's not a good situation for him.
It was a lead of 1.3 seconds. It got down to 0.3. Now it's back up to 0.6 of a second. So Brabham is putting a little bit more pressure on his teammate. And this is a tricky situation if you're Matthew Brabham. How much will you challenge your teammate who is fighting for the championship?
If I was Matthew Brabham right now, I would try for a pass right away. If you have the speed, okay, you're going to go for the pass. But if he's stuck behind the position that he is right now, sort of 1.2 or 0.2 to 0.5 seconds behind, you almost want to back off at some point and start conserving your tires, because these tires produce a lot of turbulent air. So right now, Matthew Brabham is passing through a lot of turbulent air kicked up by the car of Zach Veach, and that creates a big lack of downforce. And as we can see here, he's now putting on a lot of pressure.
Oh, he is right up there. He is quicker than Zach Veach is right now. And you see him run a different line, not only to look for a place to pass as he tries to peek into the inside, but I'm told if you try to run right behind someone the same line, you're going to lose your downforce.
Yeah, there's no way you can run right behind. That's why you see him now running to the low side. But running on the extreme low side here in Milwaukee typically doesn't work out too well, because you just get pinched down. And as you can see, Zach Veach is not going to want to give that spot up. We know Zach Veach was going to run a little bit conservatively early on in this race to save his tires, but now he's going to have to up his pace with Brabham right on his rear.
You heard the radio communication, a long way to go.
And even if Brabham doesn't have position on Zach Veach here, what this is doing for Zach Veach mentally is he's so stressed right now. He's checking his mirrors. His spotter on top of the roof is going to be telling him he's looking inside, you're still clear, but he's looking. And every time you hear someone say you're looking, you're stressed, and you're looking rearwards and not forward.
Brabham takes another look. They're teammates, and I think, as far as I know, they get along well, have worked well together. But they've made contact before, Indianapolis on the road course, right?
They have indeed made contact, and at the end of the day, your teammate is your toughest opponent, because it's the only driver that has the same equipment that you do. So at the end of the day, you always want to make sure that you beat your teammate, and this is a proof of it right here. Brabham desperately wants to get another win here. He got that breakthrough win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway earlier this year, but has since then struggled ever so slightly again, and this could be his great chance to break back through and get another win.
Oh, so close.
Zach Veach is not going to want to give this up here, and if Brabham can drive it in just deep enough, this might be enough for him to have position here. Now we can just squeeze Zach out ever so slightly, and he's got the position. And now Zach needs to pounce. He needs to get into that draft and take that position. Otherwise, I'm afraid Brabham's going to pull away.
So Brabham takes the race lead from Zach Veach.
Wow, and now it'll be interesting to see how quickly Matthew Brabham pulls away. And again, it'd be so important for Brabham here to save his tires. So maybe pull out a second gap or something like that and then start saving his tires. Otherwise, he's going to wear those tires out. I mean, we're still not even halfway through this race.
Quite clear there are no team orders, nor should there be, nor would you expect them to be. Yes, they're teammates this year, but let's face it, in the ladder series, these are short-term arrangements. You always have to look out for yourself, number one, in motorsports, but definitely so working the way up. Even if Brabham can't win the championship, every win is huge.
Every win is so important. We saw an article on Racer Magazine recently where he said, I want to move up to IndyCar next year, and this is his best shot at doing that, by winning races.
We've got to look at his dad, Jeff Brabham, former Indianapolis 500 veteran, fantastic sports car driver, and his son is now leading with an opportunity to win for the second time this season. Matthew Brabham now leading at the historic Milwaukee Mile. Zach Veach, though, still within range. Stay with us for Indy Lights on NBCSN. Just about at the midpoint at the Milwaukee Mile. Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires. 3 races remain in the 2014 championship with Anders Krohn and Jake Query. I'm Kevin Lee. Matthew Brabham is now our leader.
He's pulled away here. He's done a great job pulling away from Zach Veach. Did a really good move there and is now in a commanding lead.
And look at what the difference of one position makes. When we last saw that graphic, points as they run, Zach Veach leading the race would have been only 6 back, but just losing 1 spot drops it back to 16. There's Gabby Chavez, the championship leader, whose car has obviously not been fantastic here today, but still has an opportunity to leave this event in front.
But these points can change quickly here because Luis Rosia is putting a lot of pressure on Gabby Chavez right now, so that can diminish his points lead yet again. So this can be not such a bad day after all here for Zach Veach, even though it looks like Matthew Brabham has it at this point. So Brabham just looking so good here on the low side. He's one of the few drivers that's able to keep it all the way down at the bottom without getting too loose here. As we see Veach here just squeezing him a little bit, just saying, hey man, I'm not going to let you take that spot that easy. And then Brabham just driving it in super hard into turn 3 and then squeezing Veach out onto the gray stuff. And that's how it got the position. Great move from Brabham, but clean at the same time.
So when you're in that situation, if you're Zach Veach, are you looking in your mirrors or is it the sound of the cars? How do you know where that car is at in relation and how high you have to stay?
On the ovals, you always have a spotter. So at the top of the tower here, you'll have a spotter that always watches out for you, and he'll inform you of everything that's going on with cars around you. You're cleared by 5 car lengths, for example, or they're looking inside, and they're inside of you. So you always know, even though you have a bit of an idea in your head, you always know 100% with the spotter. But obviously, the level of trust you need to have with your spotter is incredible because he's going to tell you exactly where you are in relation to other cars, and you have to trust that. You're almost driving in the blind.
20-year-old Matthew Brabham leads here at Milwaukee. Down the pit road for more with Jake.
An interested spectator, of course, his father, Jeff Brabham. In your expansive racing career, you've raced in Milwaukee many times, but more nerve-wracking, racing here yourself or now watching as your son is on this track?
Yeah, it's really tough. It's a lot tougher than when you're racing yourself. There's no question about that, particularly when Matthew's leading. You know, it makes it even worse. We're already just over halfway, and yeah, I just wish it was over.
How would you assess his growth as a race driver, even just in this season alone in the Indy Lights?
Yeah, look, it's we've been a little bit up and down. We probably haven't gone quite at the level that we wanted to, but then, you know, we've had flashes. He won at Indianapolis. You know, he's having a really strong race here. So all in all, I think it's gone well. And, you know, I think Matthew could go all the way if he's given the opportunity.
I guess today, 2 good lessons. One of them, that teamwork with Zach Veach, because, of course, there are points in play there. But also in terms of managing those tires, how much conversation was there about either of those things heading in?
Well, there's a bit of a talk between the drivers at the moment. It's a little bit of an unknown because the change to the Cooper tires this year. It's when you have a race like this, you know, you really don't have any data to draw on, so it's really just comes back to what the drivers are feeling. And at the moment, you know, Matthew doesn't look like he's conserving his tires too much, so hopefully at the end of the race we'll still be good.
All right, 42 laps left. We'll let you enjoy it, and hopefully it goes by quickly for you.
Yeah, I wish, but I think it's going to be, it's going to take a week, I think.
Appreciate it. That's Jeff Brabham, guys.
He finished 4th in the 1983 Indianapolis 500 among his 10 500 starts, and a champion sports car driver as well. And his son has now pulled out a 5-second lead on Zach Veach. And Gabby Chavez is another 5 seconds back, and he's trying to hold off Luis Rosia.
So far, that's going without a big problem here for Gabby Chavez, but Rosia might just be conserving his tires. And keep in mind, this is Rosia's first ever race at the Milwaukee Mile. All the guys ahead of him have raced here before on the Mazda Road to Indy, whether it's in Pro Mazda or Indy Lights. So I think Rosia is doing an outstanding job here 60 laps into this race.
And he's one of those guys that maybe could have, should have been more in the championship, but he's had some misfortune this season and a DNF in which you only score 1 point that has taken him out of contention. But he is a race winner this season on the road course at Indianapolis in race number 2 and has finished on the podium 4 more times. So Rizia has been impressive this season, as we expected, considering his pedigree coming from GP2, where he won 6 times.
He did a great job in Europe, and I think coming into the season, we all expected him to be the lead guy at Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. It's turned out that Jack Harvey has actually been the lead guy there after some misfortune from Luis Rizia, but Luis Rizia is still a tremendously talented driver, and I think he's adapted to the U.S. way of racing very well this year, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes on from here. I sure would love to see him back in Indy Lights if he doesn't get a shot in IndyCar.
I really think that the new car next year increases the chances that someone might want to stay. Sometimes as a development driver, you might think, well, I've been there, done that, I want to go try something else. But this is going to be like an entirely different series. We think there are going to be more participants next year, and a car that probably is more relevant to all types of upper-level racing. Matthew Brabham in charge right now, trying to win for the 2nd time this season. He's up by 6 seconds on Zach Veach at the historic Milwaukee Mile. '69 of 100 complete in Indy Lights, presented by Cooper Tires at the Milwaukee Mile. Just 3 races remain in the 2014 championship. Matthew Brabham took over the lead, lap 41 from his teammate Zach Veach, and he's pulled out by 7 seconds, another 5 seconds back. That's where we see Gabby Chavez in the best battle on the track right now. For third, Luis Rizia in the white and red Lucas Oil car is right behind by just about a half a second. Down to pit road with Jake.
As we watch Gabby Chavez, and you see him trying to hold off into that 3rd position right now, as we talked about, points so important. He's got a 16-point lead if they were to finish this way right now. Talking to Brian Bellardi of Bellardi Autosport, of course, this is their home race. Brian Bellardi, a Wisconsin native, and he told me Gabby hasn't said anything. He's usually pretty quiet in the car, of course, but they don't feel like there are any problems with that car. I think, Anders, what you talked about earlier is probably what's coming into play here, and that is different drivers with different feel on those tires right now and trying to negotiate it here in the final third of this race. But in terms of the setup on the car, Gabby Chavez, the important thing for him here probably is to try to get that podium finish, those points, and maintain right now what would be a 16-point advantage.
Sometimes you just have to take what is available. There are days when you don't have a race-winning car. I should mention, though, there have been days, and a specific day, where you had a race-winning car at this track, winning in Pro Mazda back in 2009.
That's right. Yeah, it's quite a few years ago now, but this track certainly has a special place in my heart, and it's a place I'll always love. And just looking at Gabby out here, I think he's doing a great job. I mean, he has all year long. He's been so consistent and done such a great job, and he knows exactly how hard to push and when to conserve. And Rizia is putting on some hard pressure here right now, but let's see, I don't think he's going to have the precision here this lap. So I think Chavez is doing just the right job here. He's saving his tires for the end.
And then when you take a look and it doesn't work, he lost a little bit of ground. You have to time these passes. You can't catch them at the end of the straightaway.
No, you really can't, and you got to work up to it. It's got to be a momentum thing. You got to almost wait for Gabby to get a wiggle on the high side there. As we can see, Luis Rizia is running a lower line, but what happens when you run a lower line is you lose a little bit of momentum right in the middle of the corner, and it makes it tough to get a run. So as you can see now, Luis is trying to go around the outside to get some momentum, but then Gabby just moves up half a car width and gives Luis Rizia some dirty air, some turbulent air on those wings, and thereby he loses his downforce. So very, very tough to pass around this track, especially in these Indy Lights cars.
As we get to the later stage of the season, we obviously start talking about next year as we keep an eye on Rizia still challenging Chavez. Gabby Chavez is very resolute in that he wants and needs to be in IndyCar next year. He was the runner-up in the championship last year. He's ready to move up, and he said, I'm having very positive conversations. He's very optimistic. He thinks he still has a chance, even if he doesn't win the championship, by winning the championship. As we've talked about, you're guaranteed 3 races. He thinks he's going to be able to get a deal that guarantees him more than that for 2015.
It sure would be great to see him move up into the Verizon IndyCar Series for next year. He's certainly paid his dues in the lower levels. He came to the U.S. to race in 2012, finished second in the Pro Mazda Championship to Tristan Vautier, who obviously then graduated to Indy Lights and then IndyCar. He finished second in his first season of Indy Lights, and then this year is leading the championship. So I think he's done everything he can to put himself in the frame for a top-line IndyCar seat, and I do think he's very well-deserving.
Still hanging on to that third place podium position, Gabby Chavez, and up front, Matthew Brabham leads by 7.5 seconds. You mentioned the Racer Magazine story about his hopes to get to IndyCar. I spoke with him about this on Friday, and he, I think, is really taking the perfect approach to this. He said, it won't hurt me to do another season of Indy Lights. I'm still 20 years old. It is going to be a new car next year, so it'll be a different type of experience. He said, now certainly, if something comes together, I cannot turn down IndyCar, and we are working at that. But another season, especially if it's with Andretti Autosport, again, is a great opportunity. Unfortunately, there are not many seats going to be available in the Verizon IndyCar Series.
No, and as we've seen with Zach Veach, another year can do so much good for you, and I absolutely think that he would go into next year being the championship favorite if he returned with Andretti Autosport. They know how to figure out new cars. They were so strong with the new Dallara DW12 came out in IndyCar, and I'm sure they do that exact same thing moving into Indy Lights with a new car next year.
And Veach said it'll be like driving a new car with the new Dallara next year, which tested on the oval last week at Indianapolis. Very impressive. They're going to be testing this week on the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with Tristan Vautier and also Connor Daly. And James Hinchcliffe and Scott Dixon are going to be testing the car September 5th and 6th. All right, starting to head down to the finish. 20 laps remaining. Matthew Brabham looking to win for a second time this season. There's one of the onlookers looking maybe some talent for next season. That's Dale Coyne. This is NBCSN. Last year here at the Milwaukee Mile, Matthew Brabham dominated the Pro Mazda race, winning. A step up into a bigger car, and he's doing the same. He did not start from the pole, but got the lead before the midpoint over his teammate Zach Veach. And right now, 20-year-old Matthew Brabham is leading by nearly 8.5 seconds on Zach Veach as we head down to the final laps of the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires events.
And normally I'd be a proponent, if I were Matthew Brabham, of backing off a little bit here just to save his tires, but it looks like he's been able to keep that pace up all throughout, and now with 12 laps remaining, he's still keeping the same pace. So clearly he's found out something with the tire wear that no one else has, because we see a lot of cars slipping and sliding right now, but it looks like he's on rails.
Brabham last year had a record-breaking season in Pro Mazda with 13 wins, 7 straight. He was on the podium 15 of 16 events in 2012. He won the USF 2000 championship with 4 wins, and he's not going to win the championship this year, but he's got a chance to really take a big step towards next season. 2 wins, finishing at least in the top 4 in the championship in your first year in a series is a solid season.
That's a very solid season, especially considering the talent level in Indy Lights at the moment. We have all the drivers really in the top 7, top 8 have been so strong all year long, and as we can see now, Luis Garcia putting so much pressure on Gabby Chavez. Gabby really struggling to lap Juan Piedrahita here. I don't know exactly why he's struggling so much, because he did it easy early on here, but now not so much. Now he's going in to defend for Luis Garcia. This could be a great chance for Garcia to get that jump.
And you're wondering about the tire wear right now for Chavez. Is that why he can't get around the lap car of Juan Piedrahita, who's only 1 lap down?
But have a look at who's also lurking in the background here. Scott Anderson is right on the bumper of Luis Garcia. This could be a great result. Garcia spins in the wall.
And our first caution of the day, Luis Garcia was trying to find his way around Gabby Chavez, but lost the back end. And Garcia with a fairly significant impact to the rear of that Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports car.
And Garcia just tried to pinch it down low there in the middle of 1 and 2. And what that does when you have worn tires is it tends to make the car snap loose. And as we can see, that car is pretty badly damaged. Obviously, the rear end is completely off, and that's the end of the run for him. A really, really unfortunate set of circumstances here for Garcia, who now has his 3rd DNF in quite a few races.
So he's not even that close to Chavez.
But see, he turns down on the low side, gets dirty air from Gabby Chavez, and as soon as he gets down there, just loops the car around, and that's the end of it. So just puts in so much steering input trying to keep it down the low side. And Jack Harvey was lucky not to T-bone Garcia there as Garcia rolled off the brakes coming down the hill.
So now, this is what Matthew Brabham and really Zach Veach did not want to see. They both had comfortable advantages for position. Veach trying to make sure he stays ahead of Chavez to gain ground in the championship. And now we're going to have likely a couple of laps for a shootout.
And Brabham did not want to see that. He had such a commanding lead here. Pushed so hard to get that advantage out, over 8 seconds there at one point, and now all that's diminished. And if he still has life in his tires, he should be able to hang on here. But if Zach Veach has done a better job at saving tires, he could have the advantage here. And the one good thing for Zach Veach right now is that he's got a lapped car of Juan Piedrahita between him and Gabby Chavez. So that's a huge break for Zach Veach, because we know Chavez very, very aggressive on the restarts.
So depending on how many laps we have remaining, that might take Chavez out of play for being able to catch up to Zach Veach. He's going to have to get Piedrahita immediately to have any kind of chance, and we are going to go green the next time by, so it should be 5 laps remaining.
And do not discount Scott Anderson at this point. He's done a great job this race so far, has kept his nose clean. We haven't seen much of him, but that's because he's stayed out of any sort of trouble. He's just kept it clean, done a very good race, and maybe he's the one with the best tires at the end here. He could get a podium.
Now, I did see that they are going to move those, not on the lead lap, to the back. So Chavez is now running 3rd in order, so he is directly behind Zach Veach now. So throw all of what we talked about out the window. Now, Veach has 2 jobs here. Is he trying to attack to get the lead or protect?
At this point, he's got to try and attack. As we see the lights are off on the pace car here, we will go green this time by. At this point in time, he needs to attack. He needs to close that points gap to Gabby Chavez, so he just needs to keep his eyes forward and focus on getting Brabham on this restart.
Pace car will pull off, and we'll go green next time by. This is the next to the last weekend, but there is a double header next weekend in Sonoma. 2 full points paying races.
And this is going to be crucial for Matthew Brabham to get a good restart here. As we can see, he's warming his tires. He might try one of those tricky deals where he's going to try and pull away as he's pretending to warm up his tires. There he goes.
The leader in the championship in the red car, Chavez, is in 3rd. Veach in 2nd, chasing his teammate Matthew Brabham. Restarting. Here we go from the Milwaukee Mile. Veach tries to look to the outside. Brabham on the inside in the white and blue car. Veach on the outside as they go side by side. Zach Veach down the backstretch is going to pull ahead to retake the race lead.
What a restart from Zach Veach. That was amazing stuff as we see Brabham there throwing it into turn 3, trying to get the advantage there. But that was an amazing restart from Zach Veach around the outside in 1-2 and made it stick into turn 3. That was impressive stuff. And as we can see, Gabby Chavez already falling back here in a big way. These 2 Andretti Autosport teammates are hooked up.
Less than 3 laps to go. It's not done yet. Does Brabham have another run on him? Chasing his teammate, Zach Veach. And that turn would move the championship back to within 7 points.
Wow, what a big change here in the last few laps of this race. This is amazing stuff, and I don't think Zach Veach is going to give it up at this point. He is pulling away, and as we can see, he probably has the better tires at this point. He did say he was going to conserve his tires across the middle of the race, and it looks like that's exactly what he did.
Jack Harvey is running in 5th place today, so he's going to lose a little bit of ground in the championship if it stays this way. Zach Veach is pulling ahead a little bit from Matthew Brabham.
And it's got to be so tough to mentally reset as you see the white flag there come out. It's got to be so tough to mentally reset for Matthew Brabham here when you get jumped by your teammate like that on the start. So really, really tough there for Matthew Brabham, but great obviously for Zach Veach and great for his championship hopes.
A half a mile to go here at the historic Milwaukee Mile. Zach Veach, the final 2 corners, trying to hold off his teammate Matthew Brabham, the championship leader. Gabby Chavez is back in 3rd. Veach will see the checkers. He's a winner for the 3rd time this season and pulls within range of the championship leader with 2 races to go.
That was impressive. Veach pounced when he had the opportunity. Such an amazing move.
Zach Veach will celebrate this one. He's within 7 of Chavez in the championship. Stay with us. We'll hear from the winner coming up from Milwaukee on NBCSN. Back at the Milwaukee Mile, where Zach Veach on the final restart with 5 laps to go retook the lead to win and get his 3rd of the season and stay within range in the championship. Matthew Brabham comes home in a very frustrating and disappointing second place, leading by over 8 seconds when the yellow came out with less than 10 laps to go. Gabby Chavez, the championship leader, finishes in third. Let's hear from the winner down to victory lane with Jake Query.
For the third time this season, it is Zach Veach who has won in the Indy Lights. And Zach, we talked about this before the race. You talked about those tires, and it looked like you had those Cooper tires right where you wanted them at the end on a heck of a restart. Take me through it.
Man, I was worried I saved him too much through the middle. You know, Matt really kind of distanced himself out, and I didn't know if I'd be able to catch him, but just got so lucky with that yellow and had to kind of hold my breath on the outside of him through one, but we just made it stick somehow. So I'm very happy with the Replay XD cars in victory lane.
Take a look at that restart here and take me through just the communication with your team and with Matthews as well. Teammates, but at the same time, racing clean and hard that whole time.
Yeah, no, Matt wasn't going to help me at all here. I mean, we're racing each other very hard, but you know, I got to the outside of him, and my spotter just told me, you know, keep pushing, drive around him, and I put my foot down, and we did just that. So I'm very thankful for Cole Carter. He helped me out here.
You know, we've met you in victory lane before, but I don't know that I've seen you this excited. Enjoy this one. That was well earned.
Thank you so much.
Zach Veach wins here at the Milwaukee Mile as he has won for the third time this season.
Look at that. Zach Veach enjoying this one. And the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Matthew Brabham had this one won, but you have to be good and you have to be lucky, and the yellow was very unfortunate. So Brabham, fourth in the championship, and we're focusing on the top three. Harvey loses a few points. He came in 18 back, but Veach goes from 23 to within 7.
Huge comeback for Zach Veach. We mentioned it at the top of the show. He needed a comeback this weekend, and he made it happen on the final few laps with an amazing move. That kid is on the uprise, and we'll see if he can get it done at Sonoma.
And we'll crown a champion next weekend.
We will indeed, and it'll be exciting.
2 races to go. 13 and 14 are coming up next weekend after Zach Veach wins today at the Milwaukee Mile. Well, next Sunday, Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires concludes with that title-deciding doubleheader from Sonoma Raceway. Be sure to join us next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern here on NBCSN. For more information on IndyCar and Indy Lights, go to NBCSports.com. Congratulations to Zach Veach. For Anders Krohn and Jake Query, I'm Kevin Lee. Thanks for joining us on NBCSN.